on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, day 29 here on the 31 Days of Horror Vol.5. And yes, we're going to take it back to 2012 with a film released by Unearthed Films. And it has got one of those titles where I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And it is called Thanotomorphose. Something along those levels. You know, the word is so long and foreign, because it's a French word, that it even has the meaning of the word on the back of the case. So this movie right here came out in, like I said, 2012, I believe, on the indie circuit. I think it got released on media in 2013 or 14 or something like that. So getting into the synopsis of this one. Basically, this one follows our main character, Laura, who is in kind of an abusive relationship with her boyfriend. We learn that very quickly. After a night of pretty rough sex, she wakes up in the morning, she's got bruises on her and stuff, which is not really all that foreign to her because since she's in an abusive relationship, she's kind of used to having them, so she doesn't really think anything of it kind of deal. She's a struggling artist and stuff, not really happy with her, obviously with her personal life, her relationship life, part of her life, and, her work life isn't really going as expected either. Things like that. She's kind of a shut-in now. She doesn't really want to do anything else but kind of stay home and stuff. But then when, the bruises on her body kind of turn into rashes, and then they just start to progressively get worse and ultimately start to basically rot her flesh. Her flesh starts to decompose and stuff like that. She kind of starts to go crazy, starts to kill people and things like that. And so that's basically the synopsis of the film. Now, my thoughts on this movie. So if you're familiar with Unearthed Films, they generally specialize in releasing, kind of indie extreme type films and stuff. This is definitely along those lines. It's very nasty in its approach. My overall thoughts on the movie. First up, we'll start with, some of the things I did like. I thought the effects in this movie were fantastic, really, really well done. The progression of her decomposition of her flesh was just brutal. It was really, really nasty. It's got a lot of stuff in here, everything from piss and feces to puke and just rotting flesh and blood and gore. There's, all that type of shit here is present, and I think it's really good. Like I said, her progression of going from bruises to rashes to getting all scabby and crusty and shit actually falling off her was pretty interesting. I like that ride and stuff. The acting was pretty good. The atmosphere and the mood of the film was very doom and gloom, very I don't know, man. It has that tone to it where, there's nothing good ever coming of this whatsoever. I really do like that. The music in the film, again, fits the tone perfectly. It's very gloomy and very quiet. It's actually very quiet. The score isn't overwhelming in the film whatsoever. And it's basically one of those films that's all set in her house. It's a confined horror film. There's one location, so it does feel very, very low budget and stuff. To the things to the cons to the movie, first off, it's way too long. This movie runs 100 minutes for a confined horror film with a very kind of simple premise about somebody's body just kind of rotting due to some kind of foreign disease or something like that. It runs way too long, and it really does show in the first 30-40 minutes of the movie. It's very slow paced. It's dealing with her and the boyfriend and stuff, and there's a whole pile of scenes that I feel like could just either be cut out, edited right down. I think this one would have been a way better film if it was 20 to 30 minutes shorter. Taking this exact premise, kind of sped up the process of the decomposition or just tightened up that process, and I think you would have a way better film due to pacing, really. I mean, that's kind of its main demon here is the pacing. It's just ultimately way too slow. We don't get really a lot of other characters in the movie. She does have kind of like a cocktail party in kind of in the middle of the film and stuff, so we get to see a couple other characters, and there's another guy that comes and goes a couple times in the film either, but the film mostly is just her, and it's very slow paced. There's not a lot of dialogue because, again, it's just her dealing with this this foreign disease that's rotting her flesh and stuff. So it's very long and drawn out, which was kind of killing my whole mentality while I was watching this film. I'm just like, man, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I would love to recut this movie and tighten it up. You could easily take 20-30 minutes off it, and that's crazy to say about anyone's art and stuff like that, but that's just my opinion. But I think, though, if it was tightened up, it just would have been a lot stronger, and it would have had more I think it would have hit you a little bit harder too with the decomposition, because you know it's coming, but it's so drawn out. You're just, by the end, you're so worn out from the 100-minute watch that you're just like, ah, man, okay, that's cool. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a good film for what it is. Like I said, the main demon is that it's way too long, but it does have a lot of really interesting stuff. Like I think the effects and you know, the overall film itself, I could see a lot of people not caring for it. Because it's definitely one of those movies where I could see people taking a look at this film and saying, well, the director, all he wanted to do here was, you know, show blood and gore and guts just for the sake of showing blood, gore, and guts and lots of tits and nudity and stuff. You know, I think deep down, there is a huge metaphor here. I'm not going to give away what I think the metaphor is here, but I feel like directors just don't make movies just to show blood and gore. I mean, especially these kind of artsy, you know, extreme type films. I believe that there's always an alternative motive for, you know, what they're doing with a narrative. So I think there is a metaphor present here. You just kind of have to dig and think about it. But I think it's very obvious if you watch the first 30-40 minutes, if you can concentrate, because it is quite boring, to be honest. And I hate using that word when, you know, reviewing a film boring, but it is. It's really slow, and it's just kind of like, okay, let's kind of get into this, right? So but with that said, you know, the movie itself, overall, I did enjoy. I did not love it. I would love to see a different cut of this. I think it would be so much better. With that said, I'm going to come in around a 6 out of 10 on this one. I think I was in around a 5.5, but I'm going to come in around a 6 on this one, just for the effects alone, and, you know, the presentation's pretty good. A couple things that were actually kind of bugging me. My nose is so itchy, I don't know what's going on. There is scenes in this movie with the cinematography that he does shoot out of focus stuff. I'm not sure if that was just a choice he made personally to do that, you know, kind of like an artsy choice and stuff, but I think it really didn't work in some cases, because there's actually one scene where it's out of focus and you're like, okay, I want to see what the fuck is going on kind of thing, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I really don't understand using out of focus shots even as an artistic, you know, in an artistic way. I really never really understood that, but I don't know. So that was another thing that was actually kind of bugging me about this. But, you know, not a bad film. It is a French-Canadian film, but it's actually in English. So it's not subtitled. So if you're curious on checking this one out, yeah, it's actually in English, which surprised me. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for Thanotomorphose. I don't know. Like it even says on the back, Thanotomorphose is a French word meaning the visible signs of an organism's decomposition caused by death. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's going to do it here for day 29, guys. Check you guys tomorrow on day 30. We're almost done. And as usual, deuces!